Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning and welcome to Live Natural, Live Well. I'm your host, Heather Lounsbury. In just a moment, I'm going to be bringing on my fantastic guest, Julieanna Hever. I'm really excited to have her on today. Before I bring her on, I'd like to go over some logistics. If you have any questions for me or Julieanna, please call 347-884-9533. That's 347-884-9533. And make sure you mark the show as a favorite. And if any questions come up and you'd like to book an appointment, definitely go to my website at livenaturallivewell.com for more information. And let's go ahead and bring Julieanna on the line. Good morning.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, thanks for being a part of this. I know you're incredibly busy doing 1,000 different things, so glad you make the time.
My pleasure.
So yes, I know you're a plant-based dietitian, and I don't know what my listeners know about you. If you could share a little bit of your story with everyone.
Sure. Well, yes, I'm a plant-based dietitian. I have a long story, but I have a personal training background, and I'm also now an author. I wrote The Complete Idiot's Guide to Plant-Based Nutrition, and I co-authored The Complete Idiot's Guide to Gluten-Free Vegan Cooking, and I'm the nutrition columnist for VegNews Magazine. And let's see, I have my own TV show that just started a couple of weeks ago called, actually it's been about 3 weeks, called What Would Julieanna Do? And it's a wellness talk show that's on Veria Living. And we talk about nutrition and health and cooking, but as well we talk about psychology and beauty and fashion and pets and men's health and women's health, and it's just kind of like an all-around fun talk show that's finally airing.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And how did you get interested in nutrition and specifically a plant-based diet?
I had a really long, kind of twisty journey that kind of all came together in a really interesting kind of way, like a roundabout way, very circuitous, with all sorts of little weird quips from the beginning, like when I was a kid and my grandma would always quiz me, like, where did what's in a banana? Why do you eat bananas? Well, for potassium. And, like, she kind of taught me this kind of innate interest in nutrients and foods. And I was always just fascinated by food and diet and what we eat. And then when I was a teenager, I read John Robbins' book, The Diet for a New America. And after that, I wanted to eat a vegetarian diet. I didn't want to eat any more animals. But I didn't know what I was doing because I didn't know anybody that ate that way. My parents didn't know what to feed me. And so essentially I was just like not eating my mom's cooking. I would just, make my own do-it-yourself, really not healthy dinner and or just pick around everything. And I just wasn't thriving. I wasn't doing so well because I didn't have the skills. And then so at the same time, or around the same time after that, I was kind of scared away from it because it wasn't, so effective and I wasn't thriving on it. And my parents were scared and everyone was worried about my health. So I got talked back into going back on the regular diet. And when I started, I went back to acting. I was like an actress because I live in Los Angeles and a lot of people in Los Angeles are acting. And I was, doing the Hollywood thing, and I had managers and agents, and they kept telling me to lose weight because in Hollywood you have to be super, super thin, as we all know. And I was always kind of challenged because I was never naturally thin. I always had to kind of work on it. And so they sent me to this personal trainer at one point. It's kind of like in college. And then I loved personal training. I loved it so much because I used to also teach exercise classes to my friends when I was like 5. So it was like that came together too.
I would love to see video of that.
Yeah, we actually have cassette tapes of me going, and 1, and 2. It's like hilarious. So that came together, and I loved personal training. So I quit acting, became a personal trainer. And then as I was graduating college in personal training, people were asking me all these questions about, well, what am I supposed to eat, while they're training or trying to lose weight. And I didn't feel qualified to answer, specific nutrition questions. because, personal trainers were given like a chapter to learn on nutrition in our training. So I went back to graduate school to become a dietitian and got my master's in nutrition, and that all started to fall into place. And then I had kids, and I started reading again, and I kind of went back to all of those books that I had been reading since I was a teenager, since John Robbins, and all about, healthy eating and Chinese medicine and Indian Ayurvedic medicine, and that was it. Like, after I had my degree, I was able to kind of like look at the research and figure out how to do it appropriately so that you can still maintain your health and continue on a healthy plant-based lifestyle. And after that, I just want to keep helping everyone else know that not only is it safe, but it's actually an ideal way of eating.
Yeah, and I love your story and hearing that this morning, because it's sort of similar to my journey. I gave up meat when I was about to turn 15, and the first couple of years I would take top ramen and throw broccoli and tofu in it, and I thought,
well, at least you had the wherewithal to throw the broccoli and tofu in. That's good.
Oh, God. Yeah, so it was hit or miss for me too. Like, and I was definitely the first couple of years not very healthy at it, but eventually I figured it out, luckily. But
yeah, nowadays it's great because there's so many resources that we didn't have back then. Like just books on how to and the nutrition and the research. There's so much more research now than we had back then, and so now it's like it's much more user friendly, and there's more vegan options and cookbooks, and there's just so much out there now, and so much that the internet changed everything, so people have access to all this information and recipes, and it's fun. And I think that now it's the best time ever to try a plant-based diet.
Yeah, and I it's amazing what we went from, the options at restaurants being, or vegetarian restaurants being like brown rice and sprouts and
right
and greens to incredibly decadent foods that we have today.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. I love that.
So what kind of clients do you usually see? I know you're probably so busy with your books and show, but what kind of
my day job is still seeing clients for sure. I mean, that's the bulk of what I do. And I see all sorts of people. I see a lot of weight loss, of course, and people that want, it's interesting now because it's like a subcategory that wasn't there when I was in grad school, that like people wanting to transition specifically to a plant-based diet. So from wherever they are health-wise, they still want to transition for whatever reason. And then I get a lot of people, like the standard American, what's going on, with high cholesterol, high blood pressure, heart disease, cancer. And then I work with a lot of elite athletes that are, taking it to the next level with their diet, and that's kind of fun because what's so cool about a plant-based diet is that it's like literally a one-size-fits-all. You can take it from all of the spectrum of health and get people better, but you could also take people that are like at the peak of health, like an athlete, and take them to yet another level. So I think that's exciting, beyond exciting.
Oh, that's great. And so everyone who comes to you wants to transition to plant-based, or?
No, not everyone.
Okay. And what would you say, do you have a percentage of how many people switch even though that wasn't their intention?
Most people do, and I always want people to be more plant-based. Now, a lot of people come to me and say, I don't want to be vegan, will you still work with me? And of course I'm going to work with them because anyone can benefit from eating more plants, more whole foods, less processed foods, less animal foods. Like everyone will benefit from that. Whether or not you go all the way and completely eliminate those products it just depends on the person. But I think a lot of people start that phase of adding in more whole, healthy foods, and it kind of crowds out the unhealthy, the health-damaging foods. And they notice an instant difference in their health, and their blood work parameters change, and their energy gets higher, and everything kind of improves. And it's this wonderful perpetuating process where they want to keep going and go further and further and further. So most people do end up ultimately going all the way, if you will, at the end. Yeah.
Yes, I've had friends ask me, like, what do you do with your patients who eat meat? I'm like, well, I give them all plant-based suggestions, and then they can add to that whatever they feel comfortable with. But I just personally I can't say, oh yeah, well having a few eggs a day, let's add that into your breakfast routine, or
right.
That's sort of how I handle it.
I'm pretty similar to that too. It's just like I can't. They'll say, well, even a little bit. Well, what about fish? What's the best fish to eat? I'm like, I don't think any fish are good to eat. I'm just not going to say it. And they try to get me to say it, and they do everything because they're desperate to hold on to certain foods. And I too cannot condone it. But if this is what you're going to do, at least make sure the majority of your diet is filled with this stuff. And the other stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. And can you give us an example or two of like two really huge improvements, like sort of miracle cases that you've had over the years?
The most dramatic improvements and the most exciting and thrilling stuff I saw was when I did our first round of Meals for Health with EarthSave International last year. We took, I think it was 21 people through a 28-day whole food plant-based nutrition program, and these people out of food bank in Sacramento. And some of the people, were struggling with obesity and diabetes, and the results were just like extraordinary. And it was like all within just a couple of weeks that we saw this difference. And it was all really quick and all really in our face. So I think that was the most dramatic. Like one woman who was on 8 different medications and got off of them within a first week. And this other woman that was on high blood pressure medications for 21 years and got off of them in the first week. So I think like stuff like that is just shocking. And then we're preparing for the next Meals for Health this year, and we went up to it's actually Berkeley, and we're going to be doing it with the church this time. And all of these people came. I mean, we got so many requests to be volunteers for the program, and we went up to meet with the church, and we saw, the members of the church that were interested in participating. But then after that, we were kind of interviewing all of the potential food coaches, and every single one in that room, and I'm talking, there were like, I think 30 people at least in this room, they all went through and told their story of their plant-based miracles, and I could not get over the stories. Like one person who, her son never spoke a word at the age of like, I want to say like 5 or 6, like some like advanced age that he should have been talking at that point, statistically. And he hadn't spoken at all, and she switched the diet, and he started talking. And then her other son who had Tourette syndrome, and the symptoms went away. And I mean, I just saw these extraordinary stories. Just like it's like people that are like on a cane and like lose the cane after eating plant-based. It's just unbelievable. And you see it with your own eyes,
That's incredible. Do you know if the child who didn't speak, was he autistic? Because I know I see a lot of autistic kids, and they get huge improvements when they remove animal products from the diet. I'm curious.
Yeah, no, I believe that he was not. It was a special, There was a word for it. There was a diagnosis that I had never heard of. It was kind of a rare diagnosis, but it was not autism or on the spectrum that I think, because I don't know, it was uncommon.
That's incredible. I love hearing success stories like that.
I know, it's exciting. It's empowering, because we feel like we're victims to, the food industry and the pharmaceutical industry, and we have to, our doctor has to, we have to be like, at our doctor's beck and call, like what they suggest and what their diagnosis and the medication. But really, we have so much control, and I think that's extraordinarily empowering for people.
Oh, absolutely. And you sharing these stories, do you have that in success stories in any upcoming books or?
Well, actually, I'm working on a book proposal right now that's going to include a bunch of success stories. They're not in my previous books, but yeah. And on the Meals for Health website, there's stuff too. Pardon?
Oh, that's something to look forward to for everyone.
Yeah, thanks.
And what would you say, obviously everything's plant-based, but what would you say is your top 5 tips that people can follow easily to get healthier and everything still tastes delicious?
Well, you mean from a culinary perspective, or from like steps to take to start out, or what do you mean specifically?
Yeah, steps to start out, because most of my listeners are at least leaning towards a plant-based diet, but many aren't. So if you have some, like maybe the top 5 things that you would recommend people doing or avoiding.
Okay, so number one, I think the most important thing is to go in there with a very positive, optimistic approach instead of saying, wait, I can't have fish, eggs, and like starting a list and being concerned about the stuff you have to omit. Instead of that, focus on the things you can add to your diet, like, I've never tried, red lentils or quinoa or that funky-looking root vegetable that's sitting in the market, like try new things, try new recipes, and have fun with it. Like it should be a fun kind of adventurous attitude, and I think that makes it a lot easier. Because I know that the first thing I think of when someone says you can't have something is that all I want is that one thing that I can't have.
Yeah.
So
I had a patient recently. She gave up dairy, and she was eating dairy cheese every single day, and she said she would see people's heads as blocks of cheese.
That's like a cartoon. Oh my God, that's so funny. I could totally relate to that. I mean, we all can relate to that. Like anytime. I mean, I was, like I said, I was always on diets because I was acting, and I was like obsessed with food and obsessed with the scale, and that's all you think about when you're like, you know, focusing on it. So the best thing is not to do that, avoid that, make it fun, think about just new things and positive. And the second thing is just to really like do some homework, like look it up. There's some fun, creative, exciting blogs and cookbooks and websites out there with so much information and so many delicious recipes that like I don't even know where to begin. There's so many. Like just start like just Google plant-based and you won't believe how much comes up. So I think just finding, you know, that source of inspiration. And the third thing is support. I think it's very important to have a support system in place. So, you know, talk to your friends, talk to your family, you know, find people online. You know, that's what I love. I love Facebook and Twitter because you can connect to people that are like-minded. And then you feel like, you know, you're not alone. And you'll see all these other people that have had such huge success. So it's a continual source of inspiration as well. And
I would add to that, meetup groups are a great option too. I know, at least in LA, but we're kind of spoiled here with the number of vegetarian and vegan meetup groups there are, and starting potlucks. And if you live in an area where there isn't a meetup group, I would say start your own and make new friends that want to be a part of this as well, because that's to me having that support, because sometimes our family and friends can get upset about making this transition. So finding people who are already there that are excited to share this information and share the delicious food with you, I think is a great idea.
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100%. And the cool thing is that they're popping up everywhere. Like the smallest cities everywhere are starting to have more and more of these groups come together. So, yeah, like start it yourself if you don't have one. But I think that's great advice. And I think winning people over with the food is the best. Like just find delicious food and people will be sucked in just because it tastes good. Because I think that's like the biggest myth of eating plant-based is that people don't know what do you eat. You know, people think you're, you know, subsisting on carrots and celery sticks and eating like a rabbit, when that's far from the truth. You know, there's like thousands of different options, if not, you know, tens of thousands. And you just have to explore and use your taste buds. I think that's the best way to get there.
Yeah, I know the biggest test for me is when I go visit my family, and you know, I'll cook for them, and they love everything I make. Like, see?
You're right.
See? Yes.
Or it's also fun. It's also fun to like have a potluck, or I mean, like a party. Like I'll throw a party for some random thing, and I won't let, like, if I'll do all the food, or if someone that knows me or a friend that wants to come too, and they know not to. I don't want any animal products in my house. But I'll have this whole huge, I always make these huge buffets, like with tons of different food. I always over make food, and then, you know, people they don't even realize what they're missing. Like they don't go, oh my God, they can't believe that there's no animal products or the stuff that they're used to eating in those foods. And I think that wins a lot of people over too.
Oh, absolutely. And buying your books, I know that's very sweet of you to say, try all these different cookbooks, but let's start with yours, because I think they have great options and ideas and tips for everyone.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the Plant-Based Nutrition book is it's basically a great beginner's guide, but it just, you know, provides like the hows and whys of plant-based. And I also put, you know, I think there's like 40 recipes in there, and they were all like my lifetime supply of my favorite recipes. and then right as I finished and published that, they asked me to do the Gluten-Free Vegan Cookbook, and I'm like, wait, I'm out of recipes. What do you mean? So that's why I got lucky to be tied up with Chef Beverly Lynn Bennett.
Okay, so next, do you have another quick tip for everyone?
Another quick tip. Let's see. Oh, I don't know why I'm off guard on that. You know, I know. Eat the rainbow every day. You know, every single color of the rainbow represents a different health properties, different phytochemicals and antioxidants. And if you aim to try to get every single color every single day, at least once, you're going to ensure a nice wide variety. And variety is really important to make sure you get optimum nutrition.
And what would be, like, what's a typical day for you? Like, do you have your morning green juice, or is there a staple to your everyday diet?
I like to do a lot of green every day. I try in some capacity. I usually start with tea and soy milk in the morning, and then I love a green smoothie. That's one of my favorite breakfasts. Or I'll just do some fruits until I get hungry around 10 or 10:30. Then I like to have my workout on a lighter, like I like to eat light before my workout. And then afterwards, that's when I eat a big, huge meal, like a huge salad with, a million things and tons of beans and leftovers from last night, and I kind of throw it into a humongous bowl. And then I make whatever I make for dinner, like a grains and beans dish, or a lasagna, or I always try to incorporate lots of color and different things. But I do like to experiment. And I've got little kids at home, so it's a constant challenge to get my kids to eat their veggies, like with most moms. And so I have to experiment a lot with food and dinners and getting everyone to eat happy. And my husband's very picky, so I've got lots of challenges at home, so I'm always experimenting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And what would you say, since you do have two small kids, and I hear this a lot from parents, like, well, getting my kids to eat this way, especially if they weren't raised plant-based, like, there's no way I can get them to do it. So, and I know that's not true, but what do you recommend a way to get kids to eat their veggies?
Well, I think that no matter what your diet is, whether it's, a very meat-heavy or a very processed diet, I mean, like in general, this is the hardest world we've ever lived in to get our kids to eat healthy. I mean, becoming a parent and seeing what it's like in the schools and seeing what it's like at birthday parties and how, like, literally every day there's some excuse to give your kid candy and junk food. And I just wrote this article. I was so frustrated after my son's basketball game, and I came back and I saw that the mom who is designated to give the snack, the post-workout snack, which is, by the way, post-workout, your cells are, like, so hungry for really good nutrition to replenish what you just did and recover and repair from your workout. So it's a really critical time. Like, that's the most critical meal is post-workout. So I see my son in his hands are a little package of Oreos and a little package of Goldfish to be washed down with a Capri Sun. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I lost control. I mean, I know this is totally obnoxious. But I grabbed them out of his hand and snuck them back in the mom's bag. I'm like, I couldn't let him do it. And then my husband's yelling at me because he's a coach, and my son is crying, and I feel like this evil mom. But, like, it's like you get up to your eyeballs with this garbage that's being forced down your kid's face. And, of course, they want it, and all their friends are eating it. So it is the biggest challenge for any parent, whether you're plant-based or not, to get your kids to eat healthy. And it is a constant battle, and you have to kind of step up and be aware and, like, be aggressive and maybe be the bad guy. Like, I'm the bad cop. I know I am, and I'm accepting that role because when kids are growing, their cells are growing, constantly, rapidly dividing. So it's like a very vulnerable time, and they're exposed to all this toxicity, and you need to make sure that they're getting the nutrition they need to grow. So I'm going to just take it as a bad cop while they're growing, and then I'll let them do what they want later. But I'm constantly giving them options, and I bribe them. If you eat this many pieces of your broccoli, then you can have your dessert, and I get a healthier, dessert. So I make sure that the stuff I have at home are healthier versions of stuff that they like. But it is a constant battle, like with the schools and camps and sports and everywhere. And I think it's tragic, and I think we need, as parents, to take a stand, and I think we need to revolutionize this. We can't keep doing this. We can't keep feeding our kids all this processed foods. This is why we're all so sick and overweight.
Yeah, now that adult onset diabetes isn't even called that anymore because small children have it.
8-year-olds. 8-year-olds are getting type 2 diabetes. I mean, puberty's starting younger. Like, there's all the signs of damage are already being seen. I mean, it's blatant. We're more than 2/3 the population overweight and obese now. 17% of kids are overweight now. I mean, it's ridiculous. And this is the first generation that is expected to not surpass the previous generation in longevity. Like, we're going to live shorter lives. Our kids are going to live shorter lives than we are. And that's never happened in history before, ever.
Yeah, and it's most of it comes down to what we eat. I mean, there's, environmental toxins and so forth that unfortunately we can't avoid, but most of it's from our diet. It's really sad. I noticed you mentioned that puberty is starting earlier. The average age for a girl now is 9 to start puberty, and I'd say, if not all, almost all of my patients in their 20s started their periods at 9 or 10, and it's just I can almost not stop myself from opening my mouth, like my jaw dropping, and they just say it like it's, because all their friends got their periods at 9, like that's normal now. And for our age, it was 13, 14, maybe even 15, and now it's these little 9-year-old girls. I don't know how they can even handle it emotionally.
Right. Yeah. No, it's really scary, and it's definitely the food is the majority of the cause.
Yeah, I know I get a lot of people say, well, if I eat healthy, I don't need to do anything else, right? I'm like, well, that's definitely a huge chunk of it, but, like plastics and, our air quality and water quality, there's, I could go on and on about all the things that impact us. But, I
know. It's a little depressing when you start thinking about it. But the one thing you can control, you can make changes in your home as well and use non-toxic chemicals in your house and, not use plastic bottles. And there are ways to, help improve the situation. But you can't live in a bubble, unfortunately. I would love to put my kids in a bubble. That would be perfect. But I can't. So, you have to do everything you can. And I think that diet is one of the most significant changes we can make, and I think it does have the most significant impact. And if we just made that change at least, we could see a dramatic difference. What Dr. T. Colin Campbell always talks about is dosing, the dose, and how, we have these little exposures to the environmental toxins, but we're getting an onslaught of food toxins all the time, and that has a bigger effect on us than the outside toxins. His work with aflatoxin and changing the protein level of the when he was doing his experiments. It's a long story. I don't think I have time for it, but it's just fascinating. And I think the most important thing is to control what you can control and do the best that you can, and that will be ideal for the long term.
Exactly. So before we say goodbye, if you want to give maybe what you put in your green smoothie every day or green juice every day. So, something that people can try at home.
Okay, well, I have 2 favorite green smoothies, one in each of my books. The one that I usually go back to is I always pack my blender half full of leafy greens, so I'll do whatever I have with me, usually kale, some kind of kale, and some lettuce, a romaine or spinach, and I pack my blender with that, and then I put a tablespoon of flax or hemp seeds, and then I put a little bit of frozen fruit, a quarter of the blender, and then I use unsweetened almond milk usually, or sometimes coconut water, and that's it, and I blend. That's my favorite. My classic. Super easy. And it's great because the frozen fruit is already packaged and cut and clean, and you just throw it in, so it's so easy to make.
Yeah, I definitely prefer fresh, but I always have my freezer. That's all that's in there is frozen chopped up fruit and my chia seeds.
Aw, there you go. Yum.
Well, thank you so much. And when can we expect the next book before we say goodbye?
Oh, good question.
Sorry.
I'll let you know when I know, but stay tuned. You can follow me on my website, plantbaseddietitian.com, and I'm always posting about everything that's going on. You can follow me on my TV show, What Would Julieanna Do Too, and all of that will be coming out soon.
Great. And your Twitter is Dietitian?
Plant Dietitian, yeah. And dietitian spelled with a T, not a C.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people spell with a C. Thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you. Good luck.
Take care. Thanks, you too.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
So thank you so much for coming on today, Julieanna. If you have any questions about what we spoke about today, please contact me at info@livenaturallivewell.com. Make sure to mark my show as a favorite, and you can follow me on Twitter at Doc Heather. And in 2 weeks, I'm having on author Kathy Freston. She's also a great advocate for healthy living, so I'm excited to have her on. If you just want to drop me a line, please do so, and hope to talk to you soon. Take care.